Are live again. It's so good to be here with you. Oh, I look forward to these. These are the highlight of my week. Yeah, I love these. I love seeing you without seeing you, but you really allow me to see you because what you tell me about yourself and what you have to say and your stories that you share, and just you being here. I feel like I know you. And I feel some of you I do know that I've coached before. But I feel like I know you. And it's just, this is really a neat thing that we can do this, even though we're not physically together, but we can do this like this. So I am so glad you're here. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday night. Saturday nights were always one of my loneliest nights. And so I was in a panic if I didn't have things planned, because I would feel the loneliness of feeling like I should be somewhere or should be doing something. Saturday nights, not everywhere in the world is it Saturday night, but I've picked that because it has a certain feeling that brings me back to a time when there were a lot of feelings about this, yeah, this day, this night, so this evening. So I'm glad you're here. If you want to tell me where you are listening in from, listening in from, um, eh, feel free to type it in the chat. I'd love to know where you are, where I'm meeting you today. Um, yeah, I have a pretty worldwide audience here, and so it's been really neat getting to know you. I feel like I've traveled all over the world talking to you. I feel like I know so much more about the world thanks to you. So I really appreciate, yeah, your being here and just participating and yeah. All right, Tampa, Florida. Awesome. Oh, I am so glad you're here. For those who are not, yeah, and the Saturday night. The next day, I always love talking to people in different time zones because I feel like I get to time transport to a whole different time travel to a whole different time and get to see what the future holds without being there. And Houston, Texas, Tampa, Florida. I think I said that. Yeah, love being all over the place here with you. So I'm glad you're able to tune in. Okay, so I'm going to start with a question here from Janice. So, Janice, if you're here, I am answering your question. And if you're listening to the replay, you will have a chance to hear this too. So, Janice wrote to me, and Janice said, "Hi, Jane. Firstly, which is so sweet of her, I've been receiving a lot from your videos. So, thank you very much." Aw, thank you, Janice. I'm so glad you are. Janice, over a love. The relationship lasted 5.5 years. Hello, Linda from Denver. Nice to see you. um, she said the relationship lasted 5.5 years and ended amicably, but it was extremely painful. She says, I have been struggling since that relationship had to end, which was almost 3 years ago. So this is going on 3 years. You're not alone in that. The amount of time that the relationship was, even if it whether it was long or short, it's not that, it's the intensity of the relationship. It's how much you gave, it's how much you put into it, it's how much of yourself you gave, um, that determines how quickly you get over it. And I have heard this from so many people who hear someone saying, "Come on, get over it. Like, how long is this taking you?" And there almost seems to be like this magical thing where it can never be more than a year. It's like if it's more than a year, there's like some. For those of us who give so much and just put so much into these relationships and who pin so many of our dreams and our hopes and our plans into these men and these relationships, there is no set time limit for how long it is going to take you to get over somebody. And because you're doing more than just getting over the relationship, you're getting over those dreams, those plans, those all the things that you had that you associate with that relationship. Those are the things you have to get over too. And so all of that takes time. There is no time frame. So if someone tells you it's taking you too long, or what's wrong with you, come on, you got to be moving on, don't listen to them. Okay, don't listen to them, because we do this in our own time frame. We do this in our own way and in our own time. And it is not so much the time, it is how much support we have in that time, and how much we feel with something else in their place, because that is the hardest part. You have so many reminders all the time of everything that happens. So it's okay if it's been 3 years. I've heard of a lot longer, and I've heard shorter. It really is something that should never be used to shame you or make you feel embarrassed about it, make you feel there's something wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you, however long it takes you. Okay. It's only recently that I have found some success in dealing with it, and you have played a major part in that success. Oh, thank you, Janice. I'm so glad to be able to have helped you through that. Good. So I'm currently struggling with what I believe to be a limiting belief that I am now too overweight to attract the kind of man that I would want in my life, let alone my soulmate. I just can't seem to wrap my head around the idea that the kind of man that I want could get past the weight issue. I have used food as the only comfort to get me past the last 3 years, but that choice ended up biting me in the butt. I have been trying to lose weight, but I've been unsuccessful so far, and warned me after my request to separate and end our 20-plus year marriage that no man is attracted to an overweight woman. Okay, that is so cruel. That is so cruel. Okay. And this is makes it even crueler. That was said when I was roughly 60 pounds less than my current weight. In fact, I was barely overweight at that time. He also blessed me royally on the third day of our 3-week honeymoon that I should really lose some weight. Ugh. I was 115 pounds. This is not about weight with him. This was obviously much deeper than that for him. We dated for 6 years, and he had never mentioned a word about my weight in all that time. Exactly. Because it wasn't about your weight. It was about something deeper, but I'll get to that. On our first trip to the grocery store after our marriage, he wouldn't even let me buy orange juice because it had too many calories. The control started then and it never ended, and it still hadn't, but that's a whole other story. And yes, it is a whole other story, but I am so glad you got out of there. And what you had to endure and go through, and how much of yourself you lost with someone who is that controlling and who actually picks these parts about you. So yeah, that's really, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're out and free of that. Lastly, I'll note that it's not really my ex's words that are the true problem. I am overweight, and that is the truth. My concern is that if, for whatever reasons, I can't or don't lose the weight, am I doomed to a life without a relationship that I'd actually want? How am I able to establish a relationship when I have this conflicting story? I am ready to love again and have a relationship, but I'm not able to until I lose the weight. Jane, if you would be willing to speak to this, I would be incredibly grateful. So grateful. Janice, I am so glad that you reached out, and I'm so glad that you are yeah, here talking. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So there's a lot in here. So first of all, I just want to reiterate, okay? Anyone, I don't care who he is. Anyone so are anyone who could pinpoint this, your weight. I mean, that is such a delicate thing, and in our culture we have been so body shamed about weight. I mean, weight is just always a topic that comes up, and it is something that is just abhorrent, what we have gone through, what we put ourselves through, the diets we put ourselves through, the things we do because of weight. And it's so anyone who would ever talk about like this, I don't care what size you are, is that's cruel, and that is like one of the biggest red flags right there. I will say this: it doesn't matter if it's weight. You can substitute in here for weight anything, anyone who picks on something here, anyone who has a problem with anything like that about you personally, that they would pick that apart. There is something so cruel and so wrong with that, and that is the last person that you should. They can treat you like that, and pick an area that is, obviously something that is triggering, or is just something about you to pick apart. I mean, it's something about your person. It's not saying you've got a habit that they don't like, or that they, it's not something like that. It's an actual personal, yeah, thing that, yeah, there's other ways to talk about things like that. But anyway, so I'm glad you're free from that. It is really insightful of you. And I just want to commend you on the fact that you can understand what a limiting belief is. Because a limiting belief is something that you take, that usually the idea was given to you by someone else. And you take that limiting belief and you put that, or you take something that someone said that someone else tried to make you believe about yourself, or someone else made it seem like that was just the way it is, a fact about you, okay? And you made, who knew better, they're in a position of authority, they're in a position of someone who has some control or power over you. And so you take their words and you make them your own. So that is, and then that dictates your life. That's the limiting belief. The fact that you can recognize that you have a limiting belief now, that you are now too overweight to attract the kind of man that you want in your life, let alone a soulmate. That is huge. So I just want to recognize the fact that you're even seeing that is a big deal. So you want to know, no, first of all, you're not doomed to a life without a relationship that you would actually want. Okay. You're not doomed. There are so many different things that we can hold as a limiting belief that someone tells us, they plant the seed, we go run with it, and we emphasize that through positive reinforcement. We find men who reinforce that. We find situations that reinforcement. That is how a limiting belief takes control of us. We keep finding evidence and finding proof that supports the hell on our lives. It's horrible. So that's not the way it is here. Okay. Um, I will tell you this. Some of the most attractive women have the hardest time meeting men, because even though you look at them and you think, wow, they have it all. Like what, what could possibly be wrong with them? I wish I was them. I wish I had what they do. But the stories that I hear privately from those women who have that, these women who have the outer exterior, the front that looks so perfect. Okay. What usually comes with that is they have been brought up to believe that they are perfect, that they have to be perfect, that they have to be something that they are not. And so what happens with that is that when you have, when you have that kind of language on you, when you have been told these things, you are going to act like that is your life, and you are going to act like that is true, and you're going to try and prove that. So anyone who is telling you that, that's a problem. So anyone who is going through that, if you are more beautiful, someone who you think has it all, they have messages that supposed to be perfect. Um, they have um, they have different issues here. Here, I'm going to stop for 1 second with my thought, because I've got a few of you saying that you can't hear me that well. So, can everyone hear me now? Are we good now? Did the issues get resolved, or are we still going in and out? I saw someone said that they logged off, and or what did they do? Okay, someone had said they went out and then they were able to hear again. Okay, good. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And if there's a problem, let me know. More of you let me know, and they'll know it's not just an isolated thing, because sometimes it's just something. Okay. So, okay. So you can hear me now. Okay. So we're going to see if this hopefully will help. So, Okay, let me know if it doesn't. Anyway, so my point is, these someone who you're looking at that seems to be the one who has it all together. They've got their own limiting beliefs, and they often have this idea that they have to have someone who, see, they have to have someone who is perfect because they've been brought up they're perfect, and so you have to have someone who's perfect, and that can wreak havoc on them trying to find a real person because they're looking for someone perfect. So the messages that someone else received, you don't know what they are, but they often are equally as troubling and keeping them from moving on from their own limiting beliefs. So that's the first thing to say, is that we all have limiting beliefs. I work with some of the most beautiful, successful women. I mean, it is incredible. Some of these women, some of you who just have so much that you don't see that you've got going for you in terms of your beauty, in terms of your, your hearts and the things you're involved with, and how, yeah, there's just it is such a personal thing, what your own limiting beliefs are. So I'm going to say this: you have control over these beliefs. If you believe that, this is really clear. If you believe in your limiting belief, if you truly believe that whatever it is, you can substitute overweight for whatever is your thing. If you believe that to be true, then you are going to keep trying to prove to yourself that that is true. That's going to be on your radar. That's going to be front and center. That is going to be something that you keep trying to positively reinforce to prove to yourself that you are right, that that is your thing, that that's the problem. One, because it's an easy one, right? It's something you can attach it to. It's like, okay, well, this is why. So it must be because of this. So if I can just fix this, I'll be better. I'll get it better. So that's the first thing, is it allows you to have a reason so that you don't feel as bad, because it's something you can say, I've got this. I just have to fix this. So our beliefs work for us, even if they're limiting. And then the other part of it is, it's much easier to just keep proving that, because even if you're not conscious of it, this is why it really helps to become conscious, because if you're not, whatever is your limiting belief in the background is going to be coming up for you. Whatever is in your subconscious is going to be coming into your consciousness. So you're going to be attracting situations and people who are going to reinforce for you whatever it is you believe about yourself. And that is just because there is an energy, there is something that you will put out there that just it'll be either in your body language, it'll be in the way you communicate, the words you use, the way you speak of yourself, the way you it's in so many subtle things, but the truth of what you believe about yourself comes through. So the first thing to do is, whether it's we're talking about weight or anything else that this applies to, for everyone else, no, that will never keep you from finding someone. I like I said, it's actually the more average people, okay, the more normal, the people in the middle, not the extreme of anything, whether it's extreme, whatever it is of what we look up to or what we don't look up. It's that middle place. Those are the people, those are the women who have the easiest time finding someone, is someone who is just average and just typical, not standing out in any one way. So I want to tell you that, just being comfortable in your own skin. There are so many people who you could call overweight, and don't forget, overweight is so subjective. You have people with bigger bones, you have people with smaller bones. I mean, there's a frame, okay? You're never going to have someone who has a frame that is simply a larger frame than someone who has tiny bones. They're going to have a different body. So this whole thing of comparing ourselves is just, it's so unhealthy, because women of all shapes and all sizes are beautiful. It is in the eye of the beholder. People are attracted to different types of shapes and sizes and people, and number one thing is personality, and the whole picture, the looks come into that. Sure, the way we look, but it's the package of who you are. So I would much rather have you focus on health, than ever focus on weight, because it is just such a subjective thing. It is different for everyone. And it is so much healthier to look at that instead. Okay. So, yeah. So this whole idea that I'm not going to be able to until I lose the weight. Okay. I want you to turn that around, and I want you to have your own mantra that says something to the effect of, I can meet someone whenever I choose to meet someone. Nothing is conditional on my weight or whatever other limiting belief I hold. It is simply up to you to recognize that, which you have done, and then to take that limiting belief. And when it comes up for you, acknowledge it. Oh, there you are, limiting belief. There you are. I see you again. And yeah, you are a belief that is not true, that I picked up, and I am going to be I don't want to be seeing you as much. Whatever you need to do, talk to it like it is not this thing up here that is so that holds so much power. Speak to it just as, oh, there's that thought again. Right. No, that's not true. It's based on either my childhood or the relationship or the ones who picked on me or people who said this or advertisements, commercials. Just, it's the culture that told me this. But here are my examples that tell me that's not true. And then go and get some examples of people who are happily with someone, who are together, who don't look like whatever you have it in your mind that someone has to look like, that you have to look like to get a guy. Okay. That is just all that. There is so much underlying stuff there about the culture in general that is used to control us. That's used to keep us on diets, keep us worrying about our weight, keep our self-esteem down, keep our confidence low. There is so much about that is just underlying the whole. It's a cultural thing, and then it's reinforced by all these different ways. And then you meet a guy who feels he has the right to go off on you about your weight, which is so inappropriate. And girl, let that thing go. Let it go, and just recognize it. If it comes back, oh hi, here you are again. But don't put all your focus and attention on that, because it is just not true. It is not true. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. I hope that gets through there. Okay. Diana wrote to me saying, hi, Jane. Once again, I'm looking forward to this. And just so you know, she wanted to tell me that this last week, I know I made progress. Good. I love hearing that. I have been visualizing what I want, and feeling how it would feel to be in a loving relationship where a man loves me as much as I love him and wants to spend time with me and do all the fun things I want to do with him. I've known Diana for a little while here. So that is so exciting. Diana, I'm not sure if you're here live tonight, but I know you're going to be watching at some point. I am so glad you can recognize that you made some progress. It's the little things. And if you're just, Diana's been trying to get over this guy for a while. I'm going to tell you more of what she said here. I am, however, still fighting with my brain's old way of thinking, or maybe it's my heart that still wants to see the best in this guy that has strung me along and now acts like he's a 30-year-old. He's older than that. Only out for sex and fun. All he talks about are things like that and how to sneak around. And it's just so ridiculous and revolting to me. Yet I remember the responsible side of him, and I know I have to let it go. I'm just trying to stay positive through this whole ordeal. And I actually had someone who's the complete opposite of him be very friendly with me a couple of days in a row this week. But yet again at work, she works with this guy. But this one actually is truly divorced. The guy she's trying to get over is not. And I just feel so much respect coming from this other guy. I almost didn't know how to act when he said some very nice and sincere things to me, because I don't want to look like I'm flirting or trying to make something happen. But I'm working on just being me and loving me. Yes. Sorry for the long email. I guess my question is it the dream of what I thought I would have with him that it's so hard to let go of? I keep remembering all the things that he said to me and never fulfilled them. On the other hand, I think this contrast is showing me that as long as I hold on to him, and I don't think I am anymore, there won't be room for anyone else to come into my life. I know that we give off an energy, kind of like a light, whether we're available or not. And I guess I'm just not showing that my light is off anymore. Okay. So I want to clarify here. It's really good when you meet some new people and you get some new attention from normal men. It's so good for you. Because it is so important to be able to just recognize what it feels like to be treated nicely, to be treated respectfully. We forget that. When you are in a relationship like this, you can start thinking that this is all that you're worthy of and all that you deserve, and that there's something wrong with you, that you're not going to get any better than this. So it is so important for you to have someone who is treating you well, to have examples of that, to just enjoy. So what I would say on that is just when someone, yeah, if you have someone being friendly with you and just being nice, just enjoy it. It doesn't mean anything if you are, friendly back. It doesn't mean anything if something could be construed as you're flirting and you didn't mean to come across that way. Well, you can figure that out later. You can correct that, and you can do something different about that. But for now, the most important thing is to just enjoy normal interactions, right? Like normal communication, normal types of yeah, um conversations like that, where you're treated normally, and where you are respected, and where someone actually, yeah, treats you that way. So yeah, that's I'm really glad you need more of that. So it's good. And don't get hung up on whether or not you're being too flirty, or whether or not you're whatever, okay? Or trying to make something happen. Don't care about that. Okay? The guy who's talking to you like that, he's if he's just being friendly, well, you're figuring out what it means to be friendly. You're figuring out what it means to be to find that middle ground, right? So if sometime you might be a little bit flirty, or sometime you might be a little bit aloof, just know you're figuring this out. You're human. Come back to that, okay? You're human. You are allowed to figure this stuff out. You're allowed to be human. And if someone finds fault with that, well, let them, because they can have a conversation with you about it. They can say, if there's a misunderstanding and it leads to something awkward, you can correct them. You have the ability to speak up, and to communicate directly. And so don't worry about so much about being so perfect. I know we are so brought up with this idea of being so perfect, or saying everything right, or, oh, you don't want to lead someone on if you don't mean something, and all this stuff. That is just, so yeah, you can be yourself. You can always say, I didn't mean that, or whatever. You get my drift. Okay. And then so enjoy that. But the other thing, what I want to say is, your question that you boiled it down to is it the dream of what I thought I would have with him that's so hard to let go of? Absolutely, yes. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but that is absolutely it. It is the dream. It is not just the reason why you're having so hard of a time. I mean, I mean, this guy, most people don't know the backstory, but I mean, essentially, this is a guy who just, he wasn't even fully divorced, and he did not treat you well at all. And you took the crumbs that you got from him, which is so familiar, we can all relate to, and you made those crumbs into something. You made those crumbs significant, and you made those crumbs into something that was, worth it. And that's not the case with what you got from him. You had to imagine a whole lot more. You had to bring in the dreams and the plans, and you had to take what you saw, what little, I mean, honestly, it was probably like 20-30% of the time where there was anything. And you had to take that, and take those good times, and take that and make it into more, in order to stay in that relationship. Because otherwise you would have seen all these things, and you would have said, I'm out of here. But it's because it's the dreams, the plans, and everything you wrap into that. That's the issue. That's the problem. So yes. And that is going to help you to move on, is to recognize you're not actually missing him. You are missing the idea of him. And the idea of him included all the things that your imagination, and what you created, what you wanted, and what you ran with when he gave you that little bit, that he gave you, that gave you hope. So it's all of that you're having a hard time moving on with. But all of those things are so within your control, because if you could imagine that, and if you can dream that up, and if you could have looked at all that, then you can also let go of it, and you can also recognize that, oh, this is the dream coming up again. So much like I had told her when she has those limiting thoughts that came up, it's the same with you. When you recognize all of these thoughts about him, or these feelings coming up, or the missing, you can also recognize, oh, right, this is because of what I put into it. This is these were my dreams and my plans, and all everywhere my own mind went, and what I had imagined. So if I put those in and inserted these in the relationship to make up for all what was lacking, then I can now take them back out. I can own them again. I can take them back on me and remove them from that, so that all I'm left with is the reality of what he actually could offer me, which was nothing. So do you see that? Anyway, I hope that really helps, because um, that I think I've hit on that. I think knowing what you've told me in the past, I think that will hit home, to recognize that if you put him just as who he is, without anything that you've added onto this, he really doesn't have much to stand up, with this idea that he's anything really to miss or to keep pining after. I mean, really just separate him out from what you've put on him, and how much you've built him up in your mind. And really look at who he is, and how he's treated you, and how, even when you had said goodbye to him, or you let him go. I mean, even then, did he try to do anything about it? Did he try to come back? Did he try to talk to you? Did he try to talk you out of your decision? Did he say, I've been so wrong, I've messed up? Did he say that? No, he didn't. So again, this is what you've attached to it. And you can come back from that by taking it back and taking your power back. You do not need to keep the story going with your imagination. It can be simply him and who he is, and what you've seen him to be. And there's not much of a story there to keep going. Okay. So I really hope that helps you, Diana. Okay. So Bev wrote to me and said, hi, Jane. My boyfriend and I broke up a year ago, but I'm hearing from friends that he still tells people that he loves me. Okay. But he doesn't tell me that or act like it. He says one thing and then he does another. Do I just completely keep the door shut, or am I just lonely and want somebody familiar? Is he worth the time, the effort? There's a lot going on there. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here, Bev, because this is really common. So what happens here is, you have a guy who thinks he knows what he wants, and he thinks he's found it with you. But it gets to be too much. It's too close. It's too, you want more than he does. He doesn't want as much, whatever it is. Okay. There's something there that happens with that. And the two of you break up because of him. Right. And so he can't handle it, or whatever happens, but you break up, and he still tells people that he loves you, even though he doesn't tell you that, and he doesn't act like it when you see him, right? I'm assuming you still see him. So he's basically, you get the mixed signals. He says one thing and he does another. So what it is he's found his comfort level. His comfort level is exactly the behavior you're seeing. This is what works for him. And how you know it works for him is because you're not seeing him come talk to you about doing it any other way. So what you're seeing by his behavior is what works. Because if it wasn't working, he would do something different. So someone's behavior, their actions or inaction, always tells you the truth about a situation. Okay. So what he's telling you, or what he's communicating with you. He's not telling you this directly. He's telling people he still loves you, but he doesn't tell you that. He doesn't act like it. So he still thinks about you. He thinks about what might have been. He thinks, you're probably the closest he ever came to loving someone. He's never loved someone like you. So all these things are what he's thinking, but what he's actually doing is only talking about this with other people. He's not talking about it with you. He's not giving you actions and behavior that indicate that anything is different, that anything has changed, that he's there's no way. The only way you're finding out he still loves you is by other people he's telling, and they're telling you. So in this case, keep the door shut. There is no reason to open that door whatsoever. And yes, I think that's exactly it. When we gravitate back, and this happens a lot, especially with, I hear this a lot on Facebook, social media, where people meet their old, high school boyfriends or just someone from the past. And I talked about this last week on the, or a couple weeks ago on one of the lives, but this is what happens. It's the idea when you're lonely, right? If you've had a breakup or if you've had something, and there's something about wanting the familiar, and there's something about wanting to feel like revitalized with someone from your past who knew you from a different time and place. And there's all those things that can make that feel so attractive. And so you can want someone familiar back. And so this has been a year ago since you've broken up. Yeah, you're finding out now there isn't a whole lot out there right now that replaces what you had with him, right? So you're thinking about him more, you're wondering how he's doing. So yeah, I do think because this is normal human behavior to, you know, to be lonely when you didn't have someone to replace him, when things haven't worked out the way you thought that you were going to meet someone as quickly maybe as you thought you would after you guys broke up. So you're going to want to gravitate towards someone who's familiar. But if he is only telling other people and his behavior is not indicating anything to you, then I would keep that door shut. The only exception, okay, so I don't think you have, there's nothing that is, when you say, is he worth the time or effort? You're not getting anything back from him. So the only caveat I would say to that is if the two of you, it sounds like you have mutual friends, and it sounds like maybe you're still in touch a little bit because if you have mutual friends. So if you still have some mutual friends, you know, and you're hearing this from, if the two of you still communicate as friends, or if there's any level of communication that the two of you have, there is nothing wrong with simply saying to him, just being honest with him, you know, hey, I'm picking up on some mixed signals here. I mean, you have nothing to lose because you're not in a relationship with him, and it's been a year ago. So I mean, nothing is. So if this is going to weigh on your mind, and if this is going to keep you from moving forward, there is nothing wrong if you have a cordial relationship with him to just saying, look, I'm hearing from, you know, some friends of ours that you're still saying you love me, but you know, your behavior isn't telling me, you know, you're not telling me that. So, you know, I'm assuming it's just, you know, nothing that I should put any stock in, but you know, I wanted to hear it from you. You know, because again, I don't know how you ended up with him. I don't know how things ended, but if it was amicable and the two, and you have these mutual friends and you still can talk to him as a friend, there is absolutely nothing wrong as a friend of just bringing it out there, you know, and just saying, hey, you know, I'm hearing this, and just wanted to clarify, you know, from you, because you're not in a relationship with him. So it is not, because I wouldn't necessarily advise that, depending on the circumstances, if you're actually in a relationship. I mean, you can always come right out and ask someone, but it just might not get you the desired result you want. So it's not like a blanket thing, I would say on this one. Although I will say, if you're in a healthy relationship, you can always directly communicate with someone. Okay, so I would either just find out directly from him if you have that kind of a friendship after the fact here, after you've broken up for a year, or I would just recognize that clearly, if he is just telling people that, but he is not making any effort, the writing is on the wall. It is so clear. And the bottom line is, I mean, you guys were in a relationship. If he isn't comfortable talking to you, I mean, that's an even bigger problem, because, you know, he knew you. It's not like this is a shy guy thing, right? Like, it's not like you can say, well, he might be shy, because this is a guy who you went out with. You know, I don't know how long we were together, but you know, you were together. He was your boyfriend. So anyway, okay. I hope that helps. But that's, yeah, that's certainly my take on it. Okay, our next one comes from Kay. And Kay says that she's currently going through a nasty, years-long, drawn-out divorce, which should truly not be this complicated. It's a simple division of assets. There are no kids involved, thankfully. Good. That always makes it easier. However, my ex is not making it easy. I am grateful that I'm in a great relationship right now. However, I fear, and it's truly my only fear, that my divorce is scaring my new boyfriend from ever wanting to get married. Even though I'm going through this divorce, I can picture and want a future with him. He's never been married before. Okay, so he's never gone through this. We are currently living together, and he has proven through thick and thin that he is here for me and is serious about our relationship. I suppose my question is, how much should I be sharing my divorce frustrations with him? I know he wants to know what is going on, but I again don't want to scare him away from potential marriage in the future. All right, Kate. I hear you on this one. Well, I'm glad you have found someone, first of all, who sounds like he's healthier and someone who you've already been through thick and thin with. So that's, and he's serious. So really good. I mean, that's just a testament for those of you who feel like you're never going to meet anyone again. You can go through a divorce and you can meet someone who wants to be there through thick and thin with you and who's really into this with you. So what I would say to you is this goes back to kind of the boyfriend and the man being, everything. You have girlfriends for this. You have, any therapists or counselors or people that you have for support professionally. And so I would limit what you share with him. I would go by what he asks. I would let him do more of the asking. So if he says, "Oh, how," if he notices that you seem like preoccupied, if he notices you seem frustrated or angry, and he says, "Hey, babe, tell me what's on your mind," and I would couch it more as I would give him the bigger picture rather than details. And I would, unless he asks, if he asks for, minute details, if I would let him let you know how much he wants, how much he's comfortable with, how much he wants to have you share with him. But if he's just generally asking, "Oh, you seem frustrated," because he's in tune to you, which he sounds like he is, I would just say, "Oh, just more frustrating stuff. I don't need to get into it, but it's just more frustrating stuff." And then I would save your details with your girlfriends and your support system. Because I don't think you're going to scare them away because, obviously this is unique to you and this guy, but it's not going to help you. I mean, I guess that would be the question, like, what benefit is it, right? Like, so you talk about it and it helps to vent about it and to know someone cares about you. But, I would just keep it more bigger picture, more general terms than the specifics. And I would take those specifics and talk to someone else about them, and don't have him be your be all and all. And it's great he's a support for you, and it's great that he's there for you. But I would let him ask you questions based on how much he wants to. I would let him be the one who sets that. Sets the precedent for that, for how much he wants to hear. Let him ask, and then you get that information somewhere else. But I will tell you this: I have worked with a lot of women and coached a lot of women as they're going through their divorces or are divorced and have not great at all relationships with their guys. And I will say, the new ones who haven't been married before, this is rarely ever a deterrent, because he recognizes that this was a dynamic between the two of you. And if you two have a different dynamic, he is not going to translate that to the two of you, because he's definitely going to see that it's a dynamic. If he's if he's like an aware guy, and I'm assuming if you're going to pick him after going through this, that usually it's the opposite of what you had, right? So it's going to be someone who is much more self-aware, and so he is going to. You're not going to scare him off. I have not at all. If anything, it's almost like because you've gone through this, you've learned from it, and it's almost like seen as a positive thing that you've already been there and gone through it before. So I would not see that in my experience personally with these women that I've seen. No, they're new guys who haven't been married before. They get married and things are so much better. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. I would just more of, you don't want to be a burden to him. You don't just want to put it on him, and you don't want to, you want to let him control the amount of information coming to him. Okay. So let him communicate that. And it sounds like you've got, again, it sounds like this is everything your marriage wasn't. So it sounds like it's much healthier than that. Okay. Speaking of married men, I have a letter here an email from Pawn, who wrote in that she is in love with a married man. And I think if we were honest, there is a lot more of us who, yeah, have had feelings for married men. I actually hear this a lot. It's usually very, um, yeah, it's not something we want to admit to, but there's a lot. I guess what I want to say to you is there's a lot more women who have had a situation similar with a married man, who've gone through this before they get out and realize they never want to go through it again. So I just want to tell you that there's more than you probably realize. So I'm in love with a married man who said he wanted to leave his wife when she cheated on him a few years ago, but didn't have the courage to do so because of the kids. Now the kids are 18 and 21, so he felt ready to do it when he met me and fell in love with me. Okay. However, after he decided to leave his wife, okay, so he decided to leave his wife, his anxiety took over and he started to worry about the finances. Yes, of course, because that's a very real thing. He was worried about having to give her half of his business, having to pay her alimony, having to leave the house, and wouldn't be able to see his 18-year-old son as often as now. His anxiety has been with him for 2 months now, and it's paralyzing. I'm not sure what to do because I love him, but my needs aren't being met. He is also worried about losing me. I know he loves me and he trusts me, but I don't want to abandon him. And I don't want to abandon him. I do want a happy life with a man who loves me, but I also want a healthy and a loving relationship. I don't necessarily want marriage, but I do want someone to call my own. What do I do? Okay. So I will say, so this has been going on. I don't think you said all, but it sounds like it's been going on for a while. And he was waiting for the right time, because she cheated on him a few years ago. So it sounds like it's been going on for at least a few years. So they've been staying together because of the kids. His wife cheated on him. And now he's feeling ready to do it. So he left his wife, but now he's not sure because he's out. He doesn't have, yeah. And then now he's got all the finances, all those pieces of it. Okay. All right. So, what do you want to do here? This is honestly, the best thing obviously would have been to wait until he is free. And then the two of you could have seen, but that's hindsight. So we're not there. This is, we're all human, and whatever happened. He probably justified it because his wife went and cheated on him. The two of them should have been, well, that's the thing, right? It's hard to say what someone else should do, but definitely before you cheat on each other, you definitely should go get help, or you should do something before it gets to that point. And that is really, really hard. So I'm going to say this, everything that you have seen that he has been with his wife, you've gone through this already with him. You guys are already basically in this, if it was a few years ago, it sounds like, it's been there for a while. So what do you do? He's unsure. He's confused. He does not know what he wants to do. And it does sound like, when we say he's married, at least he's not like, at least these situations are just, they're not easy. And when your feelings get involved, it is really difficult to extricate yourself. So I will say this going forward for any of you, make sure that the guy really, if you're not okay with knowing this is going to get complicated, this is going to get involved, this is not going to be easy, is the bottom line. It is not going to be easy if you're involved with someone before he is completely separated, divorced, done, marriage, everything taken care of. It is not easy. That doesn't mean, we don't get ourselves involved in these things because, if we only ever did what was the healthy thing to do, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be human. So, you do the best you can, better later, and then, you figure it out. But for now, and Kelly, I'll get to you after I see you in the chat there. For now, what I wanted to say is, you really have a decision to make. He's got a lot of anxiety. He's got a lot of confusion. He is not sure about anything here. So we're going to look at what is not what you should have done, not what we look back on, but we're looking at where you are right now. He's got 2 months of anxiety that's paralyzing him. Okay. He is so worried. He loves his son. I'm glad, I'm glad he loves his son. He cares about seeing his son. But at the same time, yeah, you're on the back burner here because he's got all of these other things that are front and center. He cannot figure out what he's going to do with you while he's got all of these things he's got to figure out. So I think really I would take a step back and I would take a step back. I would just, be honest with him and upfront and say, wow, you've got a lot to sort out. All of the things that you're not sure about are bringing up for me a whole lot of things I'm not sure about, and so it's just, this is much more complicated than I had, anticipated. I didn't picture it looking like this. I think honesty is the best thing here. Be honest with him. Maybe he'll be more honest with you the more honest you are with him. Again, this is not a new relationship where you are basically, you don't know someone that well. And it's not where you've gotten to the part where you're having conversations. It's a whole different thing, just to clarify. I mean, in the beginning, when you're having the beginning of relationships are going to be different than you are in the later relationship, down the road where you've had much more of a relationship. There's more communication. You've talked about deeper things. So that's where you're at. So, if you can't be honest and talk to him about this, you guys probably aren't going to make it because you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to talk. And, yeah, there's a lot here. He does not know. And honestly, there are no easy answers because he's already involved with you. He already has obviously deep feelings for you. This has obviously been going on for a while, but he's got his kids. He's got a wife. He's got a business that he's going to have to give her half of his business under whatever circumstances those are. Alimony, leaving the family house. I mean, these are big time decisions. Of course, his anxiety is going to be off the chart. So your needs are not going to be met right now. And that's just a reality check. Your needs are not going to be met. Of course he knows. I mean, the fact that he's worried about losing you, he knows. And so, yeah, I mean, you're torn, right? Do I abandon? I don't want to abandon him, but I want a happy life with a man who loves me. Well, right now, this is not a happy man. Right now, this is not the guy that you want. So the question for you is, what do you want to do with that? So get as much information as you need to, in being honest with him and talking with him, have communication with him and figure it out. Get as much information as you can about when this might change, but that's, he's not going to know. He just knows he's anxious right now. He just knows this is how he's feeling. And it's paralyzing him. That is not someone who's in a place to really figure out what he is going to be able to do. So, you need to come to the reality. You need to face the reality here that you don't know what you want to do because you're waiting for him, and that is not going to come anytime soon. So, if he does nothing, ask yourself this: if he does absolutely nothing from here, if you have a conversation hypothetically and he can't tell you anything more than what he has already told you, then you're exactly here. You haven't gotten any more insight. So then the question is, what do you want to do with this? If this stays exactly the same and nothing changes, what do you want to do? And that, that's applicable to almost any situation. If nothing changes, what do you want to do? If nothing changes, because there are no guarantees that anything's going to change. You could talk to someone, you can have a whole conversation with someone, and you can discuss all the things that need to change and all the things that need to be different. There are no guarantees that anything is going to change, and you're back to what you've got. So with what you've got, with where you are, with what what do you want to do? And then looking at it in the way of what will leave you from the light, with the insight you can see, because you can't see the other side of this. You can't see what will happen on the other side of if I do this, or on the other side of if I do that. So you've got to look at from the sight that I have, from what I can see right from here without being further along to see, which is a safer route. Because if you step out and it becomes less safe, right? Less secure, more uncertainty. So from the position you're in now, what can you most live with? What decision is going to leave you with the least amount of regrets? What is going to seem the least risky? What can you most live with? How can you sleep at night? Those are the type of questions I want you to be asking yourself, because regardless of what you say, and I mean, that'll give you a feel by talking to him. But ultimately, from what you said here, I do not expect you to have any more clarity after talking with him because um, if this has been 2 months of paralyzing anxiety, he doesn't know what he wants to do. Okay, so what you do what you can live with right now, and then you take that next step that feels like the safest step from where you are right now. And then you set a time frame. What I would do is set a time frame for how long can you live like this right now, right? So how long can you be in limbo? And then set a time frame, put that on your calendar, and then when you get to that, check in with yourself again. But it's yeah, that's tough. Okay. All right. Well, much love to you. I send you love going through that because that's tough to figure that out. Okay. Sue wrote in and said, "Hi, Sue, if you're here." um, and Sue said that my kids who are in their 30s want me to get away from my boyfriend and want me to have nothing to do with him. Okay. My lease is up and my daughter is wanting me to move because we live in the same building. I love him, even though we've had tough times, mostly because of him. My thoughts are he spends time with me and we hang out together. My kids have their families. Should I give up my moments with my boyfriend to suit them, or should I live my life and enjoy it with my boyfriend? Okay. So my biggest thing in here um, is literally my biggest thing is, why do your kids, okay? Why do they want you to get away from him? So what I would ask you, Sue, because that was what jumped out at me. It's like, wow. So because your kids generally want what's best for their, I mean, they want to see their mom happy, right? And so the way that I'm reading this is it would have to take an awful lot. They'd have to have a pretty strong reason for wanting you to get away from your boyfriend and want you to have nothing to do with him. So my question is, like, is this like some kind of a personal vendetta where they actually, can't stand him because of their own reasons that don't have any validity, that are just to do with them, that have just, got to do with who they are, and something that they are triggered by or something like that. So it would either have to be that, or they are seeing something here that you aren't. And so the only way that they are not seeing something here that you're not. So the only way that you don't need to pay attention to this from them is if they have just, for no reason, your kids do not like him for no reason. But if there is a reason, you need to pay attention to that, because kids do not just up and want their mom to be unhappy and to get away from a boyfriend who is obviously, from what you're saying, you're enjoying him. You want to enjoy life with your boyfriend, and you're saying you've had some tough times. But so I guess what I'm saying is, because as I'm reading this, I mean, my picture is that the picture I'm getting is that they are, they're seeing stuff that you're not, because you're in it. And so if they're warning you about this stuff, there's something here for me that is, it just is overwhelmingly that there's something here that they're seeing you can't see because you're in it. So it's really hard to see it for all of us if you're in something, and they're onto something. So what I would do is really look at that, right? Like, yeah, because you should live your life. If you're happy with him, you should live your life and enjoy it with your boyfriend. But I'm just concerned that there is something here. You're not doing this to suit them. So I think that's the thing. You're not doing this to suit them. You're listening to what they have to say. And if there is validity to what they are saying, if their concerns are valid for you about him, then I want you to listen to what they have to say, because there's something there that you should listen to. But if, so the only reason, So, I mean, you need to hear from them. You need to hear their reasons, and you need to ask yourself, are their reasons valid? And unless it's like a personal vendetta where it's things that are triggering them, where it's not concern for you and your well-being, emotional, physical, mental, whatever it is, right? Because if they see things and you're sliding these things under the rug and thinking, oh, it's okay because he's not that bad. At least I have him, right? Like if that's what's going through your mind and you're settling for this guy and you're not seeing red flags that really are concerning red flags, that would be a concern. So listen to them, have a conversation, say, I want to live my life and enjoy this time with my boyfriend. But you obviously are concerned about me. So tell me, I want to understand. I would come to it that way. Ask them to explain it to you so that you can understand. Ask them to explain it to you so that you can understand to make a decision. Because you're right. I mean, if your lease is up, it gives you an opportunity to have an out. So you need to talk to them. You need to hear their concerns and you need to know why they are so concerned. Is there something there that you need to listen to? I get the feeling there is, just because I know how blind we can be in relationships. But I don't know you and I don't know this in more depth. So it's hard to say. So, but you need to find that out before you make any decision here. Okay. Cause it's not either. It's not the question of, do I suit them? Do I do what they want me to do? Or do I live my own life and enjoy it? I want you to do both. I want you to live your own life and enjoy it, but I want you to either I want you to be with someone who is not going to be whatever it is they're saying. Okay. All right. Sue, thanks for writing in. Janie wrote, why does a man who you dated, but they broke up with you because you caught them cheating, still want to be friends with you? And he texts you every day. He still wants to be in my life and I can tell he cares. So why doesn't he just tell me that he cares? Okay. And this kind of goes back, Janie, to the one I just answered for someone else. I think for Bev. Yeah. Where he's telling his friends, but he's not telling her. So same type of thing here where, yeah. Okay. So you caught him cheating. And he still wants to be actually, this is a little different because you caught him cheating and he still wants to be friends with you and he texts you every day. If he cheated on you, this is not good. Okay. If he cheated on you, you do not want to be anywhere near this guy. If someone cheats on you, they're going to cheat on you again. So, yeah, honestly, yeah, I mean, he broke up with you because you caught him cheating. Yeah. He doesn't tell you that he cares because, he wants it both ways. He wants to be able to cheat on you. He wants to still be friends. He texts you every day to make sure he's okay. He feels bad. You caught him. He feels bad about himself. He feels bad. He should be cheating. He knows that. So all it is he's trying to make himself feel better by texting you. He's like trying to make it up for you. He's trying to, honestly, cheating is I would have to know way more about this to ever allow a guy back in who cheats on you. I just feel so strongly about that because there's so many problems with someone cheating. If someone is cheating on you, that means they're not communicating directly. That means they don't feel comfortable communicating directly, or their things are so bad and they haven't been able to talk about it, or they haven't done anything to change that first. There's so much in there that's wrong that someone gets to the point where they have to cheat in the first place. That you don't come back unless there's just so much wrong there. So he doesn't tell you that he cares, well, because he feels bad about himself. So, but bigger than that is so you want to know why. Okay, so that's why he feels bad about himself. He wants to keep you in his life because obviously there was something there that he felt for you, but at the same time, it wasn't enough for him to do the honest thing, to actually communicate with you, to talk with you. So he still wants to keep you in his life. And it's also possible he wants to keep you there so that at some point when he does figure out stuff and figure out more of what he wants and everything, he wants to know you're going to be there. So he keeps you kind of strung along, keeps you on the hook. He keeps you there. I think though that, yeah, If you can't talk directly with him and he hasn't communicated directly with you before he cheated, there's a lot wrong there. So anyway, I know this can be hard. I know this can be hard. It's not as simple as just if a guy cheats on you, let him go. But I just want to say that you just set yourself up for so much more heartbreak when you're with a guy who would cheat in the first place. And going back with someone like that is just, has everything changed? I mean, those would be the things I need to know, right? Like, has everything changed? Has he, did he do a total turnaround? Did he get, did he somehow, miraculously change some, that's the piece. Is it going to be different? Like, prove to me, tell me, explain to me how it's going to be different. If you open up at all to him, if you allow him to stay in your life, there's just, and then there's the power dynamic, right? Like, what do you feel? Do you feel like, is it an equal friendship if he still wants to be friends with you? Is it something where you guys have talked about what happened and he's been really sorry and apologetic? I mean, there's just so many things on there that, yeah. But the bottom line is usually, 99% of the time going back to someone afterwards, after they've cheated on you or being involved with them at all is just more heartbreak and just more questions. And and with no guarantees it's not going to happen again. And you're going to have your heart broken again. Okay. All right. Darlene. Okay. Darlene says, how do you let go of someone you love, but he doesn't want to commit? It's after 2 years. My heart is broken. Oh, Darlene, this is really hard. Yeah. I mean, my heart goes out to you. Not sure if you're here, if you're going to hear the replay. But yeah. How do you let go of someone you love but doesn't want to commit after 2 years? This guy's still in your life. I mean, I think this is one that's so familiar. There's so many of you who write to me about this exact subject. It's going on 2 years. So you've got proof, right? It's been a long 2 years and your heart is broken. So how do you let go of someone? So the first question I would ask you is, do you want to let go? Okay. So do you want to let go? If you just feel you should let go or that you have to let go, but you're not actually choosing to let go, it's going to be really hard to let go. So the first thing is, how do you let go? Are you ready to let go? That's the thing, right? Don't let go just because someone is telling you I need to let go because, you're supposed to, or you're feeling bad because you haven't let go of someone. I know women who are in this situation and we have talked it through and they have come to a place where they are going to accept him for a certain time frame. They've decided because they get more from him than they would if they're not with him. Okay. So they have made a conscious decision, but this is different. This is not what you're talking about. This is like the secondary piece of this where we have a conversation. We talk about this. They try out different things. They try to let him go. And then they come back and they try, not let it, so they've tried this but it starts with the decision. Are you ready at this point to let him go? Because if you are ready to let him go, what you do is you focus on your life first. You don't let someone go first. You focus on you first. Letting someone go first before you've done before you've got your own life going. That is so hard. That's just so hard to do that. It's so much more likely that you're going to be back and that you're going to do some back and forth. So it is really important that you first decide if you're ready. If you're not ready, don't let go yet. Start to focus on you. Put the emphasis on you. Put all that on you. That is the most important thing. My Beautiful, Radiant, Confident You program is all about that. It's finding love by focusing on you. I mean, that's my website, Getting to True Love, finding your you that leads to two. Focus on you, and all your answers become so much more clear. And there's, all kinds of layers to that. But literally, that is how simple it is. Not that anything is simple, of course, but it isn't. It isn't. And I hear you, and I know this is hard, but really, it is finding your power again with the choice that you are choosing to let him go, or you're being told, or you're feeling the shoulds of I should let him go. If you are not ready to let him go, sit with that, stay with that, and accept that you're not ready yet. Ask yourself, what will it take until you are ready? If you don't know, Just put a time frame on when you're going to check in with yourself again. But in the meantime, focus on you, on your life, on the things that make you happy, on the maybe some new things, on the things that he has brought to you that you don't feel like you can do on your own. So a lot of times these are like personality traits in him, things that he does, that you are attracted to him about. Develop more of those things within yourself. Try on those parts of your personality. These are all steps to letting go of someone. If you have decided, the pinnacle decision is, uh, have I decided to let him go? If you've decided that, then look at adopting more of what he does, and what those things that draw you to him, and make him so attractive to you. See about developing those things within yourself, and play with them. See what that feels like, and see how you growing into a stronger, more in line with your authentic self. See how much more power that gives you. And if that doesn't give you more feelings of control over a situation that feels so out of control. Okay. So letting go of someone does not have to be um, this big, huge, this decisive line where I'm cutting them off. I'm done. Cold turkey. Cold turkey is the worst way to go successfully and get over someone. It just is. I mean, I know, we hear about that, right? And it's, you hear the cheering section that gets behind you and says, yeah, let that guy go, let that, whatever you're calling him these days. And but the reality is you have to be able to live with yourself on the other side of that. You have to be able to go through that. You have to be able to deal with that, the terror of being alone, of knowing he's gone and that you let him go. Those are no small things to deal with. Having been there and having walked through this with you, and I go through that with you, and it brings back all the feelings of when I went through that. I mean, it's like a terror feeling to know you did it, and he's gone, and here you are, and you're by yourself, and he's gone, and you have no one to blame but yourself in that moment. And don't do that lightly, because that is a really hard place to be in without support and without having thought this through. So just because you have a whole bunch of girlfriends who are all jumping on this, and they're your cheering section and saying you can do it, you're the one who has to wake up alone. You're the one who has to live with yourself the next morning, and you're the one who has to go through that. And I've been there, and I've tried to backtrack, when it happened to me, and it is so not, it's not that easy. So you have to make sure that you are ready, that you've got your resources in place, that you've got a plan, that you know how you're going to deal with this, and don't just, so it really has to be something you come to where you have made that decision that you're going to do that. Okay. So yeah, I'm sure your heart is absolutely broken. I'm sure it took a while to get here, and so let's get back to your power and to your decision here, and looking at how this feels for you. There's a video I did not too long ago that was it's your decision I talked about, and it's exactly about this, right? Like, you have to be able to live with yourself. You have to be able to know, you have to have a plan. You can't just do this without a plan, because it's too hard. It's too hard what it does to you. So, okay. But yeah, darling, my heart goes out to you. Again, I'm not, if you're on here, yeah, it's really hard. And anyway, you'll get this at some point. Okay. Angie wrote in and said, my question, in my mind has me feeling that my boyfriend is cheating on me. I feel that he stopped prior to something that happened between the two of them. And for a minute, he was not being himself, as brokenhearted over it. But for some time, he wasn't the same with me. He lost respect towards me. He was sneaking off at night as if he had something important to do. But he never replied to me calling him or texting him. I want to know if my predictions are right. Okay. So I will say this about intuition. I will say, and actions. Okay. There's both here. So there's an intuitive feeling that we get that we have been taught to not believe and not listen to. And so the first step of anything, and wherever you are in your relationship, just as a blanket statement, is you need to be able to trust yourself. That is like a priority, whether you're in a relationship or not. Trusting yourself, believe. How do you get to a place where you can believe yourself, where you can trust your intuition? That is the most important thing, because you have been taught to not trust yourself. You have been taught to that you are not believable. You have been taught that you don't feel what you think. You feel. You've been taught that you're extreme, you're too much, you overreact, you're emotional. You've been taught this. We all have. This is a thing about women, right? I mean, these are the stereotypes that come up. So there, we have had so many attacks on our intuition and our ability to intuit what is happening. So yeah, wherever you're at, that needs to be a priority and a focus, to focus on being able to trust yourself. Because the reason why I'm saying that is leading into this. It is so important to be able to trust yourself and believe yourself when it comes to things like, is my boyfriend cheating on me? Okay. I will say this is a pretty clear thing that you're feeling. I mean, you're going into detail here. You feel he stopped prior to something that happened between the two of them. So, I mean, this tells me I mean, and then you noticed he was starting to lose respect towards you. And then you noticed he was sneaking off at night as if he had something important to. I mean, all these things are signs to me that something's going on here. And if he's not cheating on you, then there's something more. I mean, he's got something that he is not um sharing with you, and there's something he's obviously being secretive about. And then the fact that he lost respect towards you at the same time, that's concerning, because sometimes what happens is, in order to justify his treatment of you, a guy's treatment of you, whether it's cheating or not, just treating you not very well, but in order to justify it, he'll start acting like he's losing respect for you. So he'll create this in his mind, where he all your faults come through. He's reminding himself of all the stuff, so that he loses respect, and you sense it, and then he can kind of justify his treatment of you. So there's definitely something here. Whether or not he's actually cheating on you, I'd have to know more, but I will say that intuition is huge. And if you have a feeling that he is, yeah, I mean, what about asking him straight out? Again, um, this is someone, I don't know how long you've been together, but if someone is your boyfriend, you should be able to talk to them openly. You should be able to say something like, so, saying something point blank where are you cheating on me? That's not always the best way to extract accurate information, because what does that do? It gives him a no or a yes, right? He can say no or yes. What I would much rather you say is something along the lines of, hey, I've noticed that you've like that time. I would be specific, right? Like, hey, that time you snuck off at night, like it I never did know, I was kind of curious to know where you were going, because it seemed kind of like out of character for you. you know um is that anything, that you wanted to share with me? Or, you can say something like, I feel like you're drifting away. This is, I've talked about this, whether or not someone's just getting distant, or whether or not you're suspecting that they're cheating on you. I mean, it never hurts to first do a temperature check, and just simply ask him where he's at, but don't ask him something that is a yes or a no, because that is the easiest way to get a total lie. If you really set yourself up, if by asking him a yes or no question. Okay. So instead, I would ask him, hey, I would mention, hey, I've just noticed that things seem to be a little different. I picked up on that something seems to have changed here. That's your first thing. You're allowing him to come and fix it, which men like to do. I mean, you're allowing him to, if he's going to, you're allowing him to come back and to tell you something. You're allowing him to shed some light on the situation. You're empowering him to come in and answer this with you. So that's something that a guy who actually wants to fix this, a guy who wants to make this happen and cares, is going to want to be able to alleviate your concerns with an explanation. But a yes or no answer isn't, you want more. So don't just ask a closed question that only can be answered with a yes or no. because he doesn't have to elaborate then, right? And then it's just, it can be, yeah, you're more likely to get a lie. So what I would do is just tell him how you're feeling. Tell him, hey, and I would not mention the cheating part first, because that is, I mean, that's a really strong accusation. You have every right to, but again, it's not going to get you the desired answer that you want, because it is a yes or no answer. And for a guy to admit that he's cheating on you, he's got to be ready to pretty much break up with you. He's got to be, or actually for you to, break up with him. He's got to be ready for you to break up with him. So that's a whole, that bridge is a lot further than you just saying to him, hey, I sense something just seems different. Like the way you've been treating me just feels a little different. It just seems like you've been preoccupied. It's been, and then you didn't call or text when I was, noticing this, or, just wondering what's going on. That is a perfectly reasonable question for someone to ask. He doesn't have to answer, but it'll give you a feel for whether or not you're on the right track or not. Because again, there's definitely something there that you feel so strongly, and that you're able to, like, the detail of this. Okay, so something there, Angie, that I'm picking up on. We just don't know exactly what it is. So let's give him a chance to say something, to come with something here to you, to give you, so you have more to go on, and then see from there. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. You have a beautiful name. Araceli. So if I said it right or not, but okay. So she writes in, she says, okay, she's talking about her guy. He's funny, he's smart, he's patient, generous, supportive. He's the kindest man I've ever been with. He's short and a little heavy. Will I be able to get past having minimal attraction to him? Oh, this is a good one. I'm glad you wrote in about this, because I hear this a lot, whether it's like he's bald, I do get short if you're mount. And then we talk about this. So this is good. I feel like an ass for even thinking about that. Oh, if I were blind, I would say there is no problem. Everything else about him is spectacular. Okay. All right. So here's the thing about that. Okay. I love kind. I love funny, smart, patient, generous, supportive, and obviously so do you. So that's awesome. But the fact that you have minimal attraction to him, that is a real tough one. Minimal. Okay. Because, and that you feel bad for thinking of it. So if you didn't feel bad, if you were allowed to just feel whatever you feel for him, what would that be like? Right. Like, and if you were blind, I would say there is no problem. Everything else about him is spectacular. Okay. Okay. So attraction is a real thing. You have to be attracted to someone. But at the same time, think about how many men you've been attracted to who have been bad for you, right? Like men who have not been good men, not funny, not smart, not patient, generous, and most of all, kind, right? Like, so I guess the question is, will this grow? Now, you don't tell me how long you have been with him. Okay. So I don't know how long you've already tried to make this work. We're not sure here. So that is a really tough part. How do you make this better? Will it get better? Is it worth sticking around and say, well, I mean, okay, you're not going to change short. You're not going to change short. And that's the reality. There is no grow tall stuff. There is no, shrink you down. You probably like your height the way you are. So there isn't anything there that you can do to change short. Now, on the heavy side, again, I go back to healthy, right? Like, how healthy is he? I am so much more concerned about someone being healthy. I like the language of healthy much better than weight language, like whatever we're talking about, usually to do with weight and heavy and stuff like that. I much prefer healthy. So is this guy healthy, or is he just, is this something where it's a real problem and you're concerned about his health as well? Because if he's a little heavy and he's not showing that he's that healthy, that can be a concern, obviously, for longevity and being able to do things and have the lifestyle you want. If you want to go places and do things and be fit together and go for walks and whatever else it is you want to do. So really it's looking at, let's define that. What is heavy? to you? Is it healthy? Is it some, and is that heavy? Is that something that you can help him with and encourage him with? Anytime we're talking about that, like, is there a way to encourage him with being healthy? Is there a way to do it together? I have couples who've done this, that they have met someone and he's a little overweight, or he's a little bit something, but they really like him, and he's a great guy. And so what they've done is they've kind of done it together. So they're either in Weight Watchers together, they're going to the gym together, they're doing these things together because it helps him. So that's something that might, he might be open to that. So there are subtle ways of kind of working on that to make him healthier. And you can, where they say, well, I really want to get healthy. And then you become more about getting healthy and becoming fit. And then it's contagious. And he wants to do that too. So the two of you either end up doing it together and supporting each other, or, you do it separately, but alongside, I guess on that piece, focusing on health, can you focus on that? Can you work with him on that? Would that change things for you? I think is the important thing, because you're not going to change short. And then again, I have had women who they're then conscious of, like, the height of shoe that they wear, so that they feel better about that. So that might be another thing that you can, that will make you feel comfortable. Because I mean, it sounds like he has no problem with this. You're not talking about him at all. You're just talking about you. So if he's all good with this, then it's really you. But I wouldn't feel bad about yourself. I would just look at it as it's reality. It's a reality that we all have our preferences, and this is what you're feeling right now. So that's what I would do. I would look at it that way. It is what it is, right? You feel this way. But yes, will you ever be able to get past? So it goes both ways. I have had women get past that, right? They've changed some of these things into health rather than weight. For height or hair, a lot of times it's to do with hair, and they've recognized that with, like, things like that, they've kind of allowed themselves to just get to know him more, and they've allowed themselves to just get used to him more and get to know him more, and just giving it time to see if they can overcome that. So what I would do is I would put a time frame again on here for, like, how long is reasonable for you to give it to see what could happen here. How long? What is a reasonable thing, time span here? That's what I would look at. Like, and you can change. It's just time to check in with yourself. Have your feelings gotten any stronger towards him? Are you feeling any more attracted to him? Because what is interesting is that I've worked with a lot of women who, they can start out with a guy who they are not attracted to really at all, but he becomes kind of this player type, and he pours on the charm, and he's like, he really goes all in to win him over and everything. They end up falling for this guy, and they could have said the same thing. They were never attracted in the beginning, but because he wasn't a nice guy, because he basically, he won them over by treating them actually pretty bad, by, you know, giving them, just coming on so strong. And then, and then it's when he turns around and all of a sudden he's not coming on, pulling all the shots, and just, doing everything, winning them over, whining and dining them and all this stuff. It's at that point when he pulls that out away, and all of a sudden, he starts treating them bad. That's when they're like head over heels over the guy, because all of a sudden, he came on, they feel, because it becomes personal. It's about them. What's wrong with me? So that's a whole different scenario. But what it speaks to on that is just how, if you can find yourself more attracted to a guy because all of a sudden he pulls the plug and starts treating you poorly, and then all you're trying to do is get it back, because it's some psychological piece now, where now you've got to prove you can get this guy back in order to prove that you're okay, that you're beautiful, you're still worthy, you're still attractive. So it's the same thing, so if that can happen, then so can it happen this way, where you can grow more feelings for someone the more you get to know them, and they're a good person, and they're kind, and they treat you well. But you have to be realistic with yourself, and you have to recognize the reason why someone who is not necessarily, or the reason why short and a little bit heavy will stand out for you, is because obviously he is the kindest man, like you said, that you've ever been with. And so it doesn't probably feel like so much of a chase or a feat for you to like a guy who likes you already. So I would explore that first as well. I would look at that and say, okay, so why might I have a hesitation over a guy who, is the kindest man I've ever met? Um, and why might I not have that with someone who, like if this guy treated you, with the whole charm thing where he comes on strong and everything, and then he withheld that, would you find him more attractive? If he is it the kind piece in here that makes that short and heavy an issue? Or, if he was a guy who with withholding and made you kind of work for him the way that you might be used to working to get men, and proving to, something of yourself in the first place, would that make him more attractive? So I would really unpack, like, what is it the kindest man thing that makes that short and a little heavy stand out? What would it be like if he was more of a player? And be honest with yourself, if he was more of someone you had to get. And then, yeah, the time frame, because like I said, I've seen both. I've seen it where they conclude, a woman concludes after trying that no, not going to be attracted to him after trying and just, letting her, giving herself time get to know him more. And then I've also seen where it's just not happening. But what this did, it was like the stepping stone to get to that middle guy that we talk about all the time, where the guy in the middle is the one who's the balance of the, you've had the extremes, and then it's a guy in the middle that you're looking for. So that can, yeah, so that's what I would look at. And last thing I would say to that is look at yourself like, 10, 15 years down the road from now, right? And imagine what it will be like. Imagine what you will be thinking then about him. Okay. And versus other men. Yeah, and then again, it just, being honest with yourself and being honest with him. If this is a guy that you're just exclusively with, I mean, how much is he thinking that the two of you are exclusive? Because I guess what I'm talking about is this someone who you could be seeing him and someone else? Is this something where this is the beginning? Where there is no exclusivity yet, so that you could meet other men at the same time and be dating other men. I'm not talking about sleeping with other men, being intimate. I just mean, if this is in the beginning stages, would it be possible for you to, be getting to know other men at the same time, so that you could see more of his value if there's other men that you're seeing as well? Because sometimes that's all it takes, is just to recognize, wow, he's like a really good guy. But bottom line, we're not trying to convince you to be with someone who you are not, you're always going to be second guessing yourself with. And I mean, that's not going to be happy either. Okay. So, but yeah, so I hope all that helps with that. That's a really common question. And again, some can, some do. Yeah, in fact, but I would say this, okay? The type, when you have been with men who do not treat you that well, when you have been with emotionally unavailable men and all those types, I will say that almost always the guy that you tell me, when you tell me, "Oh, I met the guy, we're engaged or getting married, or wow, this is amazing, we're moving in together," whatever it is your goal is for the relationship. But I will say that, he's always someone different than what you've had before. He's always something different. He's always something that you might have overlooked before. I hear that all the time. And then I hear, these women are like happy, like years later down the road, still happy, still good, because they got the solid stuff that lasts. So, and I would, I wouldn't say that these men were ever unattractive to them. You have to have some attraction, but it's just defining what is that attraction based on how our culture just takes attraction and blows it up into this huge deal that has to be, just what, what it is in our society, what attraction means. So I would even look at, like, what does it mean to be attracted to someone? And what does it mean? How are you defining being attracted to someone? Okay. There's a lot in there for a lot of you. So I want to spend a little more time on that one, because I get this one a lot. Okay. Denise, and this is the last one that I am answering. Yes. And then I'm going to move to the chat. And I think I've got a couple in the chat that I'm going to be going to, a couple questions there that I'm going to be answering the situation. So this last one, yes, if you have anything you put in there, but this last one here is from Denise. And Denise, I'm not sure if you're here or not. If you're working, you'll get the replay. But Denise wrote in, and I wanted to end with Denise's because I was just really feeling for Denise. Denise wrote to me, all I have time for is work. 3 places. I'm assuming that means you work in 3 jobs, 3 different places. No vacation or health benefits. No dates since my divorce. No time for dates. I'm tired from work, commutes, and cleaning where I just moved. So you've just moved as well. No family visits even. Very sad existence. So Denise, you didn't really put in a question there. I think you just wrote what you responded with what you're struggling with. And so I just want to say, I feel you there. My heart goes out to you because you're not the only one who writes in with that. You're the, you wrote in now this time, but, and I wanted to answer you because I'm kind of answering all the emails I get because I get a lot of these. And my heart really goes out to those. These are the ones that are really tough because I want to fix it all. I want to fix it. I want to change your life. I want to make it all better. Because it's not just dating and relationships. That's usually the place where we find our pain and our obvious pain that the big pain that leads to change in other areas. But yeah, when it's really hard to do the things that we talk about, just go get your own life, just create a beautiful life for yourselves. This can be so cliche when you are in a place where life is working. Life is basically just existing and surviving. And I do hear that from a lot of emails that I get. And it is very sad and it is really hard. So I guess what I want to say to you is I can't fix it for you. I would. There's so much there that I would love to fix. But the reality is, this is life right now. And it doesn't feel like something that, we can just wave a magic wand and fix for you. That's simple. So what I would say to you, first of all, is that nothing is permanent, no matter how much it feels like it is. Okay. And I know that can be really hard to see when you're in it. And I don't know anything more. I don't know your history. I don't know how old you are. I don't know your past. I don't know a lot, but I will say that, if you can, all you need is like one string of hope to hang on to. You just need one thing to hang on to. And so what I would say is that if you can pick just one area that you can focus on, that you can feel some semblance of power over, some kind of control over, something to cling to here, even if it feels like just a thread, life has a way of meeting you there. And whatever spiritual piece of this that comes into it, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever, just picking one thing that you feel you can have some control over changing, even if it is a very small, minute thing that doesn't seem to make a difference anywhere else. Just having one thing can set in motion a pattern where things start to change. Just one piece of hope, one thing we've got something to hang on to can be the beginning of that change, because things are going to change. That is for sure. Nothing stays completely the same. And whether it's a positive change or just more of the negative, more of what has already happened that you don't see getting any better, we don't know. But if it could just as easily be something negative, it could just as easily be something positive too. So let's look at anything, just one thing, one area that you can have some sort of control over, some power over, and focus on that one area and just try to do something different or to exact some change in that one area. Okay. And if you want to write back to me and give me an idea of what that one thing might be, I can help you string that out on the next live one here. And we can talk more about what to do with that, or how to make one thing that you have even a tiny little bit of hope for evolve into more. Okay, because yeah, I that is hard, and I do hear you, and I wish some of our social systems and things like that were set up differently. But the reality is, we live in the world we live in, and we the most we can do is do what we can to find that hope that allows us to shift something um, of what we're living at the time. All right, Denise. So yeah, just know you're loved and you're thought about. I'm sending you loving thoughts and yeah, just feeling you out there, girl. Okay. All right. So Kelly is on here. So let me go up to Kelly. Okay. Kelly is in a new relationship. Okay, so we got in our first big blow up today. Oh, that's so hard. That feels awful. Feeling so depressed and down. What do I do? How do I not let my emotions control me? Okay, and you've added on, which is great. I've only been in toxic relationships. This seems to be my first relationship that has potential to be something great. We aren't done, but I feel like I've screwed everything up. We fought because I got sick not wearing a mask, and we aren't on the same side with that. Oh, that is so tough because, and let me just tell you, Kelly, you're so not alone on this one. I have had I have had so many calls where they're divided. I mean, this is a difficult thing because it is such a divided thing around the world. Like literally wherever I'm talking to in the world, I kind of adjust my advice based on what's happening in that part of the world because it's everyone has been processing this reality of where we've been in differently. So, I mean, you're not alone on this one. Okay. So you guys don't agree. And it could be a mask, it could be anything, right? It's just something where you guys don't agree on something. We don't have to get into, anything deeper on that. Because everyone has opinions, but the reality is, you guys had a blow up. You had a difference of opinion. You're not on the same side. It's a tough situation. Okay. So you told him you didn't want to lose him. He said, stop worrying. It'll be okay. Okay. So it's your anxiety and fear of losing him. Okay. This, I don't think I was ever with a guy where no matter how much better he was from the last one, where I did not have a fear and anxiety of losing him. Even with the guy who became my husband, I was so much better with anyone else because he was so much better than anyone else. But at the same time, I still brought me with me and I still had my own anxiety and my own fears of losing someone because I'd only ever been in toxic stuff before too. So totally get that. Okay. So what I need you to do, Kelly, is I need you to stop worrying and calm your anxiety and your fear of losing him. Because what I learned and what I have taught women who have been in this situation to do is to do the one thing you do have control over. You don't have control over his thoughts and feelings. You don't have control over what's going to happen next with him. Okay. But what you do have control over is what you are bringing to this. And when you are worrying and having such a hard time calming your own anxiety and fear of losing him because there are going to be a million and one things that happen like this, where you have where you get into something and you have a difference of opinion, or you really feel strongly about something and he really feels strongly in another direction. And I mean, this is the reality of healthy relationships. They are going to healthy, unhealthy, both. But even, I guess my point is, even healthy relationships are going to have difficulties. Even healthy relationships are going to have conflicted situations where there is conflict. And so the most important thing is to recognize that you are two separate people here. The best advice I ever got when I was dating my husband was from someone who said to me, Jane, let him be himself. Let him be who he is. Because I'll tell you, there were so many different things that were it would be the most little benign thing, but I would pick up on it because I was used to my own toxic relationships with emotionally unhealthy men before that, where he would do something that would trigger me just even in the slightest. And I would think, oh, it's over. It's over. It's done. And I remember some of it just came from one of the differences I didn't understand. My husband's very, logical and practical, like a lot of men are. And so, there was one time when we had gone on what I thought was like a great date, and we were packing up. We had actually gone out on a boat. It was a dive boat. He's scuba dived. I didn't. And so that stuff freaks me out. But anyway, so so we were done and we were packing up the stuff, and we were getting off the boat, going to the car, and he was so quiet. And I thought for sure that something was wrong. I'd blown it. And I thought, because he was quiet, he wasn't talking like he had been. Something had changed, something had shifted. And what I did not understand, I mean, of course, everything was fine, a little bit later, and nothing had been wrong. So this is what I did not understand, because he acted like everything was normal when he, we got to the car, we got everything set back, we went out to a restaurant, the plans were still the same. We went out for a bite to eat, whatever. But what I did not know was that men like that and personalities like that can be really focused on a task at hand, and not necessarily really good at multitasking. Men are typically, I mean, I don't want to generalize by gender, because a lot of people aren't really good at multitasking, but methodical, logical men who can really focus on one thing at a time and are very deliberate with that focus, they do not multitask well. Okay. And I've been married a while now, and I've seen more of these. And now, I mean, it's an absolute, I mean, I laugh at this now because I think of how I thought all was lost and it was all done. And it was literally that he was just very focused on making sure he had everything. He had all his stuff. He had done whatever he needed to do, as the, whatever you do when you're done scuba diving, and whatever you do there with the tanks and stuff like that. And so he was so focused on that. He was not focused on me at all. And I felt like, oh, there must be something wrong, because whenever a guy started acting like that before, who I had, jumped the gun with, or seemed like I was too into with, or letting down my guard and being, letting him know how I felt too early, I felt there was something wrong. So anyway, I want to say, it is so important that you recognize that you are two separate people. That was my long-winded story. Why? You have to recognize in any healthy relationship that this is a guy who is not you. You are two separate people. You got to let him be who he is. Let him be who he is. You are, don't scrutinize every detail. If you guys have a different of opinion on something, it's okay. You guys can survive that. What it does is it does tell you more about him. So the question to ask yourself, is, and I'm sorry you're sick, by the way. I'm sorry, that feels awful. And that's tough to just even not feel sick and then to have a fight and an argument about this. Okay. So here's the thing with that is, if there's something more here, if you guys have a solid chance at this, like if the two of you actually have enough in common, and you guys have enough on the same page, you'll get past this. And maybe he's disappointed that you're sick. Maybe he, who knows, especially around the subject of masks and getting sick, and there's a lot of blame, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of all kinds of stuff like that. So you can be just a little ways apart, or you can be a long ways apart. Well, this is how you find out, right? You find out maybe this is more of a big deal. Maybe this is more divisive than you realize. Take a look at that, right? Look at it that way. But the number one thing to remember is that your emotions are always going to try and control you, because it's the fight or flight thing, right? It's fear. It's, you want to protect yourself. You don't want to have the same thing that you've had happen before. You don't want to be in a bad relationship before. You don't want to do a repeat of what you've done. You want this to be different. So your emotions are going to control you, but recognize their emotions. They don't tell the whole story. They don't tell the facts. They don't tell you whether or not you guys are going to be okay after this. They don't tell you the story of tomorrow or the next day or a week later or a month or years down the road. Okay. So just remember, your emotions are just emotions. They're just feelings about something. They don't tell you the truth of where this is going. You don't know yet. It's too early. I mean, unless there's something blaringly obvious that, is not there. So just learn to take, especially if you can be at all anxious and you know, yeah, a passionate, sensitive person who feels. So remind yourself that when you feel depressed and down, those are feelings, and you take what information they give you. Okay. So why are you depressed and down? Well, you can trace it to, what does this feel like? What's behind that? Right. And then what does this feel familiar? Like, what's familiar about this? Because I am sure this is not just about this. I think you feel especially down and depressed and anxious and fearful because of all of the memories this is triggering for you at the cellular level. This is a deep thing. We remember things within our bodies. Okay. This is the whole piece of it's at the cellular level of our, very being, the core of us, that we absorb feelings from other situations. And so if this is triggering those feelings, this is not just about this. This is bringing in the whole doomsday thinking that this is going to be the same as the other relationships I've had. This is going to be the same thing. And then we just heap that on and you feel even more down and depressed, right? So, I think you can kind of see where this goes, that it's our mind tries to get ahead of this and protect us, and so our emotions come in as reminders of, we've been here before and we've seen this before, and so it seems familiar. And so, um the warning sirens are going off and saying, oh, quick, got to do something here, got to fix this, got to make it all better. And normally what I find is that if you just sit with something and you just let it be. Let him have his feelings. Let you have your feelings. This is something, again, I'm learned the hard way, okay? Because I never did this easily. It took so much for me to figure this out. But the more that you can recognize the value of allowing him to have his own response, allowing yourself to have your own response, and not making him wrong, not making you wrong, just recognizing you got two human beings here with feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff. And so you're allowed to just sit here with those feelings and feel down and depressed and anxious and scared. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to blow up here. Doesn't mean that everything's going to go wrong, that this is going to be a repeat of everything else. All it means is this is what you're feeling. So really, and then allowing him to have those feelings too, because just because he's feeling something, I mean, this was like the biggest wake up call for me, that we could have a conflict, that we could like have anything come up and he wouldn't leave me, and that it wasn't over. I was shocked. I thought whenever you have a blow up, whenever there's something bad, that you disagree over, whenever something happens, it means it's the beginning of the end and it's over. And I didn't realize that in healthy relationships, people actually can have differences. People actually recognize they're not the same. People actually recognize these things, and that was so foreign to me to understand that. So anyway, so if that is if that's helpful, I really hope it is, because the goal is to recognize that you're both human. Okay. You're both going to have your own feelings and opinions and thoughts and reactions. Okay. You're going to have triggers to things. So even conflict is going to be influenced by how conflict was modeled for you, what you learned about conflict. All of that is going to be modeled for you. So it's really important to recognize all of these things and to bring the practical and the logical, and just bring yourself back to, okay, we can handle this if we are, if there is some real compatibility here. We can handle this. We can handle some differences. There are people I know who are making it work, who have differences, but there's enough that they have in common that they're able to figure it out. Now if there's something where you're really, really, extreme on something, or I don't want to label it as extreme. So if you have a really strong opinion about something, okay, because obviously everyone has a right to their feelings. And if you feel something about something and you're with someone who feels equally as strong in the total opposite, polar opposite of that, you have to look at, that's going to be a reality going forward. Is that doable? Is that livable? Is that something where you can, live with that for both of you? And if that's the case, it's not a matter of someone being wrong or bad. It can just be different. So I think that's, rather than making something so black and white and so wrong and right, um, allow yourself to look at, except for, I mean, blatant things. There's blatant things that are wrong and there's blatant things that are bad. And anytime there's any abuse whatsoever, emotional, physical, mental, any of that, okay, that is wrong and bad, and you need to get out of there. Anything abusive is a whole different thing. But you know, but even then, you know, that deserves a looking at that and recognizing and seeing what it is, how you got there in the first place, so that you don't, you know, get in there into that similar situation. So anyway, I hope that really helps. One thing that I have found is to just breathe in the moment. And, you know, sometimes counting backwards from 10 gives you an immediate focus. Sometimes just reminding yourself. I used to have panic attacks, so I understand this. But, you know, just reminding yourself, you know, just touching something, you know, touching your chair, feeling your feet on the ground, you know, just touching your hands where you recognize I'm here right now. You know, looking around you, going outside if you have that ability to go outside, looking out a window, just something that allows you to ground yourself here in the present when you're feeling just the flood of emotions, and then just know that it'll pass. But in that moment, you know, just validating, okay, I'm feeling this way right now, and it is a feeling, but it does not mean that, you know, am I in danger? You know, you can look at that, right? The typical fight or flight response is what you're talking about. Am I, you know, am I safe? Do I need to do something? Is there something I need to do right now? Um, you know, is there something I need to say? But generally, you know, the more you can take that space and not be afraid of it, and just recognize that you can both take some space and you can still come back together and things can still be okay. So anyway, I hope that helps you. I know that's tough, so I hope that helps. Um, yeah, and then Janine. Okay, Janine had something. Yeah, Janice, I think yeah, thanks Janice for chiming in there. And Janine had something she wanted to say. Jane, she said, "What do you think are the main red flags a woman should look for when starting to date a new man?" It's sad I even think this. Unfortunately, been burnt too many times in the past. No, it's actually good. It's actually good because there are red flags. And I'll tell you this, what happens is afterwards, I don't always meet you in the old glory days in the very beginning, right? When everything is wonderful. I usually meet you on the other side of that. And when I meet you there, that's when you tell me about things. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had known you then. I could have pointed some of these things out because it is really hard to see red flags in the beginning. I want to validate that. Okay. And just clarify. It is so hard to see red flags because anything that seems like a red flag, we really don't want to see it, especially when things are going so well and things seem so good, and we do not want to see it as red flags. So what I would say on that one is, it's okay. First of all, you need to be looking for red flags. So don't, yeah, you need to be aware of them. Okay. Um, so when you're dating someone new, I think the biggest red flags is like, how does he treat people? How does he treat people, and how does he anger is a big one, okay? Because men have been told that the only emotion that they have that's acceptable is anger. And so a lot of times that becomes, you know, if they're afraid, if they're scared, if they mess up, everything is anger. So that is going to be their default go-to. So it's observing like how they handle frustration, how they handle problems that come up, how they handle difficulties, and then also how they treat people, right? Like if you're at a restaurant, if you're, you know, out somewhere, how do they treat someone? How do they treat people, especially who they're in a situation of having more power over? At work, you know, if there's someone that they're over, how do they treat their staff? How do they treat someone, you know, who again it does not have as much power as they do when there's a relationship with the inequity in there? How do they treat someone? So how they treat someone, and you know, any signs of anger, you know, just like, does someone fly off the handle easily? Do they get frustrated easily? Things like that. And then someone who comes on so strong. Okay. The only guys who come on so strong and so sure of themselves and so confidently, I mean, I know this has the effect of just, you know, we fall for that, right? It seems powerful and it seems so it's exciting to have someone chase you like that and to be so into you like that, right? And just be like lighting up, with you and just, yeah, wow, like not saying enough about you. But he doesn't even know you yet. So if he's acting like that in the very beginning, that's honestly more times than not, that is a red flag, and we don't want it to be. We don't want it to be because it feels so good. So I think it's just acknowledging that first. That feels so good, and we do not want to have to give that up. But the reality is you really need to be careful with that because a guy who is that self-assured and that overconfident and pours on the charm like that, two things, one is he either knows that it's not going to be sustainable for long, so he's got to come in like that because he's only got a short amount of time to do that. So he gives everything up front in the beginning because he doesn't know how long he's got you. He doesn't know, he actually lacks confidence in himself. He actually doesn't feel like a good guy, so he doesn't know how long he's going to be able to maintain it. So he comes across like that because that's all he's got, a short term, that's it. It's just a short term one off that you're going to get that from him. So, someone like that, or else he comes off like that because, he has played this so much. He knows how to get you. That's what he does. So, I would much rather, and this gets proven over and over because it's just, I mean, we love it, but honestly, I'm so hesitant when I see someone, in my Facebook feed or something. I'll see someone and they're talking about a new guy, and I'm like, oh, like I just, it's tough because when they're talking about him in such glowing ways and it hasn't been that long, I'm just wait and see. And, depending on how well I know them, yeah, because it's also really hard to dampen someone's, yeah, expectations and hope at that time, right? Because that's what I've found. I usually say it delicately and gently because, it's hard for them to listen if I tell, because a lot of times if you warn them right off the bat, they will just dig in deeper and they won't see it. It almost becomes like this thing to prove and it just gets worse. So anyway, what I have found is I gently just try to remind you haven't known him yet, for that long. Like just take it slow, let it take your time and just know it's yeah, if it's going to be all that, it will be all that. And you're going to find that out as you go along. You're going to see that. But don't jump into it assuming that it's going to be that way and that that it's just, yeah, that this guy, what he's showing you in the beginning, that is just all of, all the fireworks and all that. Don't assume that this is going to be what you actually get. It may be that this guy is so excited about you, that he's got you up on a pedestal. And so he's treating you, like this because he knows he doesn't deserve someone like you. He knows who he really is. And so it may be that he gets so excited because he knows he's not that good, and he knows that he's going to be lucky to have you for as long as he can. So, that's the piece that definitely is a tough one because, yeah, so just go into it with a level head and, it's not sad. Yeah, we've been burnt. And I'll tell you, I have a feeling you've probably been burnt because this is what I hear. You've probably been burnt too many times by guys like this, right? Who, it doesn't seem like they're red flags. It just seems like they're coming on strong. But that coming on strong is a red flag more often than not. And the guy who takes his time, who goes slow, who just, is very who recognizes that he doesn't know you yet, that he doesn't know who you are, the guy who recognizes that is usually so much smarter and stable a guy, a healthier guy, because he knows he's got to get to know you better. Okay. So, yeah, that's just a really important piece of this to know about it is that it is going to be, if it's going to be an amazing relationship, it's going to take time. And the only way to know that it's going to be everything that it seems to be in the very beginning is if it continues to be that way. And so you're in this to get to know someone. You take your time, you stay a certain amount of, detached and separate enough so that you can actually see objectively who this guy is and what he's like. And you get to know him slowly. And you bring yourself into this where you remind yourself, I don't know him that well yet. He doesn't know me that well yet. And you don't take it personally, if he's not head over heels immediately, and you don't immediately write him off because you're not feeling all the sparks. You have to take some time to get to know him. And I would much rather you be like, yeah, he's kind of cute. He's attractive. There's something here. Definitely there's something here, rather than an over the top kind of a response, because 9 times out of 10, the relationships that last, where they're still, together years down the road, it's because they took their time. They were not this over the top attracted to begin with. And gradually they got to know him better. And gradually they got to, see, wow, there's something here. And they grew into it. That's not, again, I don't want to talk you out of something where there is an attraction that just feels like the sparks. But I do want to tell you that most women eventually wake up to the fact that those sparks really were not reliable. And the attraction is much more of the thing than just this incredible, exciting, all that. More often than not, those have ended in heartbreak, and that's really tough. So go slow, remind yourself you're, just getting to know him, and look for how he treats people. Look at, any anger signs, how he handles anger and frustrations. Okay. How he treats you, how he treats women in general is a big thing, and then, just how does he come on, does he come on so strong? Does he act like he recognizes that, he's in this to build a real relationship, which means getting to know each other, and then, keep the physical part out, keep the sexual intimacy piece out of this as long as you can, because, you need to not go there too soon, because you're going to only get more into him after he gets less. And I remember, I think I did a video where I explained that, and I told that to someone, and they were like, wow, they didn't know that. And yeah, I mean, that is just, do not go into that until you are at the place with him and he's as, into, until he's emotionally as into you as he is physically. Okay. Because that emotional piece is important. So, all right. Well, Janine, I hope I answered that. I hope that, or Janine, I hope I helped answer that, all our J's. I hope that helped. Thanks for being here, everyone. Everyone who wrote in, thank you for your questions and sharing what you struggle with me. I hope it helped to hear each other's stories and to hear what you're all struggling through. This is a really, lots going on in the world, lots of heartbreaking stuff. So take good care of yourselves. Be with the people that, care about you and see you and recognize you and understand the value of friends and people who do see you and do support you. And, if you're with the wrong people, if you're around people who, who don't treat you well, the alternative isn't just being lonely. I know a lot of people a lot of women talk about how the loneliest kind of lonely is being in a relationship where you feel more alone, or even a friendship for that matter, where you feel more alone than you do on your own. Okay. Lonely in a relationship where you're not supposed to be lonely is like the worst kind of lonely. So don't settle for those. Figure out a way, to not be lonely like that, and figure out a way to, define what lonely means to you, and find some people, figure out a way to find people and to be around people who see you and who love you the way you are, and who recognize you, not people who bring you down. All right. Much love to you all. I'm so glad you're here, and feel free to email me if you have, if I missed you, or if you're watching the replay, and you want to be able to be included with your questions or struggles in another one and have me address those. Feel free to email me, and I'll save that for the next one. when I do these, and I'll include you then too. All right, you guys take care, and I'll see you again soon. All right, take care. Bye bye.